Good morning and welcome to the regular council meeting for Thursday, June 12th, 2025 for the Corporation Township of Minden Hills. In review of today's agenda, there is one public meeting regarding a zoning bylaw amendment, and the closed session meeting will proceed directly after the public meeting. Madam Clerk, please proceed with a roll call to confirm council attendance.
Councillor Sisson.
Present.
Councillor Saini sends regrets with notice. Councillor McKelvey.
Present.
Councillor Johannesson.
Present.
Councillor Ingram.
Present.
Deputy Mayor.
Present.
Present. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Minden Hills is located on Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which are Curve Lake, Rama, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Beausoleil, and Georgina Island First Nations. We acknowledge the shared presence of Indigenous nations throughout the area and recognize its original Indigenous inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. This meeting is called to order at 9:01 a.m. Madam Clerk, please proceed with reading the resolution and the approval of the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Johannesson, seconded by Councillor Ingram. Be it resolved that the June 12th, 2025 regular council meeting agenda be approved as circulated.
All those in favor? That is carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Councillor Sisson?
I, Councillor Bob Sisson, declare potential pecuniary interest on the council agenda in the closed session for the following reason. The relative is being discussed possibly.
All right. Any others? Seeing none. Thank you. Public meeting. We need a resolution to adjourn the regular meeting in order to have the public meeting.
Moved by Councillor Sisson, seconded by Councillor McKelvey. The council adjourn its regular council meeting at 9:02 a.m. to proceed into public meeting regarding report 2540 planning application for zoning bylaw amendment PL ZBA 2025031.
All those in favor? That is carried. I call this meeting to order at 9:02 a.m. Today, there's one public meeting held by council under section 34 of the Planning Act for application PL ZBA 2025031. The public meeting is an opportunity to present to council and the public the details and background of the proposed amendment and to receive comments from the public and agencies before a council decision is made. If a person would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of council to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions before the bylaws pass, the person is not entitled to appeal the decision. This public meeting is declared open and is to consider a zoning bylaw amendment for part of Lot 10, Concession 1 in the geographic township of Minden, having municipal address 1473 Bat Lake Road. Would the planning department please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed bylaw and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to the application? Welcome. Thank you. Please start.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council. Through Mr. Mayor, the subject application was submitted by Alan Cook and Diane Halfpenny. The purpose of the application is to fulfill a condition of consent application H-051-24, which would serve to create one new residential building lot in addition to the retained parcel. The subject property is designated primarily rural, with the front portion being waterfront due to proximity of lands to Canning Lake, and a portion towards the back of the property is designated environmental protection in recognition of an unevaluated wetland. The severance would be limited to the waterfront and rural area. The subject property is currently zoned rural and hazard lands. An environmental impact study was prepared by Astor Environmental Services to support the consent application specific to the severed lot. The EIS identified wetlands as well as watercourse features. And so the zoning bylaw amendment will serve to place the natural features currently under the rural zone on the severed lot into the hazard zone as identified and recommended in the environmental impact study. Any other mitigation measures are going to be captured in the required severance agreement, which is being processed concurrently. Notice of the application was circulated as required under the Planning Act on May 22nd. A signed notice was posted on the property. As there was a potential Canada Post strike at the time of circulation, notice was also published in the newspaper just as a precaution. The County of Halliburton has provided confirmation that they have no comments or concerns with the proposed application. We've received no further comments either from members of the public or agencies.
Okay. Does the applicant have a presentation or wish to make comments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there's no one to speak to the application today.
Okay. Are there members of the public now have the opportunity to provide their comments? We start with attendees participating electronically and then proceed with members of the public attending in person. Is there anybody attending electronically?
No, Mr. Mayor, nobody's attending electronically.
Are there any members of questions or comments from members of the public attending in person? Please stand or raise your hand. Come forward to speak to your comments. Seeing none. Are there any comments or questions from council? Seeing none. As a result of these proceedings, does the planning department have any recommendations or comments that you wish to bring to the attention of council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as outlined in the staff report, we are recommending that council receive report 25-40 planning as information. And further that bylaw 25-63 being a bylaw to approve a zoning bylaw amendment for the land subject of PLZBA 2025-031 be referred to the bylaw section of the agenda.
If there are no further questions, this completes the public meeting process. Anyone wishing to obtain notice of the decision may do so by making a written submission requesting such to the township's clerk. I now declare this portion of the public meeting closed at 9:06 a.m.
Moved by Councillor McKelvey, seconded by Councillor Sisson, that council adjourn its public meeting and resumes its regular council meeting at 9:07 a.m.
All those in favor? That is carried. We move directly to closed session. Madam Clerk, please proceed with reading the resolution.
Moved by Councillor McKelvey, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shell. Be it resolved that council proceed into closed session at 9:07 for the purpose of discussing the following. One item pursuant to section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act as amended regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees' performance. 5 items pursuant to section 239(2)D of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended regarding labor relations or employee negotiations, changes to workload, wages and benefits ×2 and performance ×2. And 1 item pursuant to section 239(2)F of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, legal advice.
All those in favor? That is carried. We will now move into closed session for all those who are tuning in. Unfortunately, can't give you an exact time as to when we will return. But when we return, we will continue with the rest of the open agenda. Thank you. Welcome back. Madam Clerk, could you please read the resolution for the resumption of open?
Through the mayor, Deputy Mayor Shell, and Councillor McKelvey, I just amended the resolution to acknowledge that we proceeded to recess after close and now we'll resume at 1 p.m. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shell, seconded by Councillor McKelvey. Be it resolved that closed session adjourned at 12:23 p.m. and proceeded to recess and now resumes its open session at 1 p.m.
All those in favor? That is carried. Report from closed session?
Moved by Councillor McKelvey, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shell. Be it resolved that the direction given in closed session be approved.
All those in favor? That is carried. Adoption of minutes. It's allergy season. Any comments or amendments? Please read the resolution.
Moved by Councillor Ingram, seconded by Councillor Hanson. Be it resolved that council approves the meeting minutes as follows: May 29th, 2025, regular council, and May 13th, 2025, public meeting minutes for applications PLZBA 2025015, PLZBA 2025012, PLZBA 2025014, and PLZBA 2025025.
All those in favor? That is carried. Payment of accounts. Any comments or questions? Seeing none.
Moved by Councillor Ingram, seconded by Councillor Johannes. Be it resolved that the accounts in the amount of $269,465.99 be approved for payment.
All those in favor? That is carried. Going directly to the mayor's report. Just a couple of things. One is the county fair is this weekend on make sure it's advertised everywhere in the newspapers and on social media and so on. So find out where your favorite events are happening, and let's make sure that it is well attended because it is a highlight of the year here. The other thing I just noted that, we've got to sort of, as we are ending our cleanup phase of the ice storm, there's still lots to clean up, particularly lots of trees still on lines and so on. They may be out of the right of way, but there's still, trees particularly on bell lines across the whole area. I was in the forest and when there was a slight wind the other day and a huge branch came crashing down from a maple tree. So please look up and be very aware of your surroundings because that the infrastructure is very weak at this point. We also have a bit of a strange situation is that if you come through town and you look at the Gull River, you'll see that it is still very, very high and moving very quickly. Whereas if you go over to the Drag or the Burt River, it's in some places it's a trickle. This is solely, going to be dependent on how rain flows, not only when they hit and how much, but where. So, but be extremely careful around waters right now. It is we are still in a difficult situation. And that's really all I have for the mayor's report. Councillor Ingram, yeah.
If I may, I just wanted to let council know that we have an upcoming meeting for the short-term rental appeals committee.
Oh, yep.
That'll be next week. I'm not sure what date, but I'll bring back what I.
Oh, that's right. That's the first meeting of that.
Yes,
Is it a committee or?
the committee.
It's
Yeah.
a committee, right? Okay. Okay, good. Councillor McKelvey?
Just something I would ask that staff let you know and you'll be able to recognize it going forward in your mayor's reports is we're very fortunate that we have service clubs and other organizations willing to buy stuff for us. And I just recently found out that we bought a jumping castle. Is that the right way? So I mean, I questioned it for the reason of where it was bought, but then I found out Rotary paid for it. So it's like, okay, this is really good. And this is really nice that they do that. And we need to maybe make sure we all know that and it's recognized. So
I was not aware of that. I'd like to know where it is so I can try it.
it'll be at Canada Day, I believe, at the Cultural Center. Oh, it's going to be at the arena.
Okay.
Let me
Well,
know and I will.
I'll
have the
make
camera.
sure I do it after the opening ceremony, right? Counselor Saint is not here, so we don't have a Roma report. I imagine that's where she is at. So we'll move right on to correspondence and communication. Were there any items? Oh, there's only the one item. Okay. Uh, Fire Chief, do you want to speak to that at all, or? Oh, this was on the. Is it this here?
Just council.
Okay. All right. So, read the resolution.
Moved by Counselor Ingram, seconded by Counselor Johansson, that council receives correspondence regarding request to waive or reduce invoice 4120 issued for an unauthorized burn as information.
All those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to Public Works, Mr. Timmons, talk to us about health and safety water stream funding applications.
Thank you, Mayor Carter. Good afternoon, council. What you have here is a report for a proposed water funding application. The health and safety water stream is a funding opportunity through the provincial government that focuses specifically on health and safety related type improvements to our water and wastewater systems. This is something that has been discussed in council before, so we worked with our, obviously working with our finance department and as well Aqua, we were able to put together a potential proposal. We're seeking council's direction to move forward with the application and potentially get this project done. So what we're looking at here, in order to meet the health and safety aspect of this criteria, we pulled from Zoom inspections, which is a sewer inspection process, and we identified what's called inflow and infiltration, which is short form I&I, and that is quite simply water getting into sewer systems that doesn't need to be there. So groundwater, rainwater, snow melt. Ideally, you just have your sewage needs to be treated, goes to the plant. Once this excessive water that does not need to be treated gets into our system, it has nowhere to go. It goes to the plant, it gets treated. This leads to, as council's well aware, we do have tertiary filter bypasses on a regular basis, especially in the spring when we get heavy rains. Not a high level health risk, but certainly not best practice, and something if we could reduce and eliminate, that would certainly be in our benefit. So that's where we're coming from this. So what we've identified, significant areas with I&I up on going in towards the arena. There's water and sewer in there. So incidental work counts as long as we meet the health and safety aspect. So our intention is to tie it together with the health and safety aspect of reducing our tertiary bypass numbers. And that while we do that, while we have an open excavation, we are looking to do the water mains as well. There's a fire hydrant in there I'd like to get replaced, new asphalt and new sidewalks. That's the gist of the plan. At this point, I really have to stress this is a high level. As council's, I'm sure aware, these things come out and we have to work within a very short timeline to get a proposal together. Aqua was great. They got it together for us very quickly. But it should be noted, this is a high level estimate. We won't really know full details until we get further on into the project. But what we're looking at as a high level, so I'll just go over finances briefly. The township will be on the hook for 27%. the province will kick in the other 73%. So really good opportunity for us to make some improvements here and get some support from the provincial government. We're looking at a total project cost of about 1.4 million, which brings the Minden Hills 27% to just shy of 390,000. The province will kick in just over $1 million. Current wastewater reserve sits at 221, sorry, that's not right. Current wastewater reserve sits at 1.1 million and water reserves at 1.8 million. And the finance department is recommending to do a 57-43% split. So 221,000 to wastewater and 167,000 to the water reserve. Deadlines is quick. We need to get the application in June 26th with a start date of June 26, 2026, which can include engineering. So we could certainly meet those timelines if council was interested in us moving forward.
Councillor Ingram?
Through the chair. It's a great opportunity for sure. I'm having a problem with the water and wastewater paying for it. Regardless of health and safety, we can split hairs, but sidewalks are roads and roads are roads. The parking lot is roads. That's not part of the water system. The road pavement isn't part of it. There's no water main under that road. There's laterals, but there's not a main as such. And the idea of that, when we did dig that up, was to put a 6-inch main that met up with Bob Cajun Road. So it's a much bigger than that as far as I'm concerned, but I have a really hard time with the numbers here because I think the road should be paying for a big chunk of this as well. Or is it not qualify?
I'm not
Through
sure.
roads.
I'm not sure. The treasurer has a comment on the funding portion. I'm really not sure about how that would work and where we have to pull funds.
Sorry, is there, is this a replacing of the sidewalk after you dig it up, or is?
Yeah, my recommendation with a project like this would be to go the edges of the road allowance, strip it all down and replace it all new. That would be my experience and good practice because you're ripping it all up anyway. By the time you, depending on the depth, by the time you have an open cut trench, you're going to be pretty wide anyway. So in my experience, if you're there, you might as well. And to be fair, the sidewalks on Dick Street are asphalt, like it's not a proper sidewalk to begin with, so it would be, there's no concrete there. But there's like a lot of cold patch through it. Yeah.
All right, Councillor McKelvey?
I am totally supportive of getting funding. I need to know a little bit more about the other areas in the community that would have had a lot of this infiltration as well. So I think you mentioned that there's other areas, but you selected this one and I just need a little more information to know why this area. Because if you're going to tear it up and you're going to get a new sidewalk and moving and all these good things, I would like to make sure that we're going to pick the area that needs more work on the road, the sidewalks, everything else, and perhaps has a health and safety infiltration issue. So.
Yeah, the chair and councillor, part of it, I higher here, less water. Something along Water Street. No real issue, no real Water Street. Water table. I don't mind. I noticed something.
So is there other areas like Prince Street area or just any other areas in the town that have this infiltration?
Through the chair, there will be, but working with Aqua in the short time we had, this was what we picked out as something that seemed attainable to us at the time.
Sorry, did you have something? Yeah, I think, what it goes to show though is that these grants come up and they tend to be, oh, by the way, you have to have it in by the end of the week, it seems. And so we almost need to be doing the, call it pre-engineering, but the, you know, the situation of being, you know, ready to go on the next one. And I agree with you that Water Street is, you know, probably a lot of complication, but I think we have to invest the time to do the investigation so that if another grant makes itself available, then we would be ready to go on that. I can understand that you had a limited amount of time this time, so you picked one that was attainable. But Councilor McKelvey?
Well, I too am concerned about the funding. While I don't think that is going to impact the application, I certainly don't feel that the funding should come out of water and sewer. Right, that's just not right. These are storm sewers we're trying to get fixed, which has nothing to do with the water sewer users. Although it impacts the infiltration going to the plant and being treated, I can't support us taking the money from the water and sewer reserve. I'm still struggling with Dick Street, and I just like I need to know why. That's an awful lot of money to try and.
Yeah, first of all, Mr. Timmons and our finance.
Yes, sorry, thank you, Mayor Carter. So Dick Street, my rationale for Dick Street is there's a fire hydrant on there that I would like to capture as part of this. And then the paving of Dick Street and the sidewalks, I've just put in there as an opportunity. We're in there, I can tie things together and get the grant money potentially. If council would prefer that that is removed, I can certainly do that and we can adjust our proposal. But I essentially put Dick Street in there as an add-on. If we're getting 73% of the money, I just thought we might as well make the request, but I can certainly make that adjustment.
Finance?
Thank you, Mayor Carter. I was just gonna say for the funding, that would be coming forward as a finalization of the 26 budget process. Right now, we're just looking at basically to be able to action the grant to see if we get the funding. So we would then build that into the budget. We just propose the water and wastewater reserves at this point, but to Councillor Ingram's concern, then we could always look at different options.
So in other words, what we'd be doing is generally approving this in principle and then figuring out where our money comes from at a later date.
Correct.
Councilor Hill?
Is this getting done in 26? You're not doing that this year, right? Or are you doing
No,
this?
through the chair, we actually would have till March 31st, 2029 for construction.
Oh.
completion. So
The ways away.
But we have to apply. and-
Yes.
we
yeah,
need to
okay.
apply by the end
Yep.
of this month,
Got it.
and then start by June 26, 2026.
Okay.
So we do have time for planning.
So how we pay for our part is
Is up
something we
to us.
can discuss further. Councilor McKelvey?
That's fine. The recommendation is saying differently, so that would have to come out of that resolution. Okay, my next thing's gonna be Aqua, and that's great. They jumped on board. They did this for you, and I'm sure we'll pay them. But are we planning that they are also going to be the contract administrators of this and charge us 15%? Are they putting this out to bid? I mean, it's again, not a water and sewer.
Yeah,
I can, through you, Mr. Mayor, I can understand the question around water. I guess for me, wastewater, if we are diverting stormwater, ground source water away from our wastewater treatment plant, that is protecting our wastewater treatment plants.
Absolutely, but it's not wastewater.
No, I understand that, but it's water that we're treating through our wastewater treatment plant. No, I understand that. But it's a diversion technique to extend the capacity of our wastewater treatment plant, I guess, is how staff would be viewing this. It's also how we qualify for the grant.
Councillor McKelvey.
Okay, the question is Aqua going to be getting 15% on top? Are they tendering it? Are they administrating it? Are they charging 15% on top?
Through the chair, that would be the intention, unless, of course, there is otherwise direction from council. We will need Aqua present for all the water inspections and all the commissioning. They will have to be present for that. If this is something that council would prefer, we take in-house. But it would be a large project. It's not probably something we couldn't handle. In my background is water sewer. I'm certainly not afraid of getting involved. It would just be workload and availability of staff.
Councillor Ingram. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Sisson.
We seem to be spending a lot of time debating this and it hasn't even been approved yet. Is that correct? You have to apply it and it hasn't been approved, so it's a long shot. I think if we can get $1 million out of the provincial government, we should be doing it.
No. Councillor McKelvey.
I'm fully in favor of applying. I wanted to make sure the project was the right one. I still don't feel that we want to pay $250,000 towards Aqua administering this. That really stings. And I do not feel water and sewer should pay for it. So, I mean, those can be discussions down the road as long as we're going to be allowed to have them.
Councillor Ingram.
Through the chair, the concern I'm having with this particular spot that they've chosen is one, they are probably closest to the newest lines that have been put in the town. Okay, because that was done in 1990. There is no water main that runs down that road. There's a sewer main, but there's no water main. It comes down Archie and then it branches off into laterals from there. Okay, so this isn't the best project to tear up and do because it's the newest infrastructure we have in the ground. Why would we tear it up? I don't understand this. I don't know where Aqua's coming from. Prince Street, Anson Street, all of those streets have shown infiltration when Robichaud did the complete system. We didn't do anything then. We're not doing it. We did a few things. We did parking within the structures, but this isn't new. This isn't needed. This particular one, it is. I get that the hydrant was put in like it's not even 30 years old. That hydrant. I put it in. I mean, this isn't the right project to be doing for this. It's not that old. We should be looking at something else. And if we can't afford it, then we should look at funding it other ways and do the project completely. Because this is like we've got hydrants that are 1964 that we didn't replace in the last round. So I just think this is money wasted on this particular portion at this time.
Well, I mean, is there leaking at this point? I mean, do we have water coming in?
Yes, that's correct. So that's what's been identified through these Zoom inspections, that the sewer main is collecting water and contributing to our bypass issues at the wastewater treatment plant.
Councillor McKelvey.
I'm just trying to find it, Mike, but there was somewhere in here, like it was cambered.
Yeah.
And they did identify a few areas, I think is what you've said in here. Sorry if I'm quoting it wrong. But you've only reported one. What are those other areas?
Through the chair, off the top of my head, I can just assume that we have underwater, we have pipe under the water table in town. there will be infiltration. I don't know that I have
Okay,
exact areas, but I would say most of.
okay, so
it
what
probably
about,
has infiltration issues.
what about up in Mackayville, which is really old? I'm sure there must be infiltration up there.
Understand here, we've got a chance to get, I know it costs money, but we've got a chance to get $1 million, and we have to determine this by the 26th of June. Like, you know, all these other areas are possible, but you know, we're just not ready to do that work before the 26th.
But how do,
Go ahead, Councilor Ingram.
Going to spend $1 million, $1.1 million because we got it. That doesn't make any sense at all on a road that doesn't need it. That doesn't make sense to me to apply for that. Change the project, whatever. Pick something that's feasible. It doesn't make sense just to replace underground infrastructure because we got a grant. Replace it because it's leaking badly or.
But we've heard that it is legal.
It is, and there's ones working 10, 20 times worse than that. Okay?
I don't disagree, but it. Councilor McKelvey.
I never wanted to turn down the opportunity for funding, but I don't want to use it for the wrong project. That's where I'm trying to find out. There was work done. Did Aqua come with, 3 options? Did they come with just this one after looking? And you're right, the roads that are under the water table, okay, that one, that's big. But there are other roads that are not under the water table. There's other areas. And I suspect they're a lot worse shape than Parkside. But I can't know that for sure unless you tell us what else was in there.
Madam CEO.
Well, I think I was going along the lines of
Yep.
what Councillor McKelvey was saying. I think if council's very concerned that we're not spending it in the right spot, then we pass on this grant. And we move forward and we get more shovel-ready projects or design-ready projects. I guess what I'm struggling with is we have a consultant who has done some work and brought something forward. I don't know what else was considered, but I guess staff is going based on the recommendation of the consultant's analysis of today. So,
So it's as Councilor Sisson said, I mean, it's, you know, do we go for the $1 million from the province or not? I mean, we don't have to. And we don't know if we would get it even if we did, but it comes down to whether we, you know, we can't be comparing this to other hypothetical projects, even if they would be better. We basically have this on the table in front of us right now. So it's a bit of binary. We want to go for it or we don't want to go for it. That's really the question that's on the table. Councilor McKelvey.
Well, it says in this report, Aqua, the township, with support from Aqua, the township is using information gathered from the most recent Zoom inspection, which identified significant inflow in various locations. All I'm asking is what's the other locations? I don't want to turn down this money either, but I certainly want to spend it wisely and get the best bang for our buck. If we have various locations identified, I don't know why we can't ask for information.
I assume you don't have the information available at this
I
point.
certainly don't have it with me today, and if we don't have a resolution to move forward today, I don't know that we have the timelines to be back here for approvals, right? June 26th is the next council meeting.
Well, we're not going to call a special meeting for this project, so go ahead.
Yeah, for council suggestion, I understand it takes quite a bit of work to actually submit a grant application. I mean, what we could do, and I don't even know if it would afford whether it be Aqua or staff to submit the application, but we could amend the agenda and actually move that item to be addressed pretty much right out of the gate as soon as we approve the agenda. Once you have your approval or whatever council's decision is, then whoever can get working on that grant submission for the 26th. It would be the 26th that they would submit. They'd have till 5 o'clock, or sorry, they would have
Yeah.
till 5 o'clock,
I
right?
mean, we can't put that on this department.
That's
now.
what I'm saying. That's my only
there's too much-
suggestion other than.
There's too much other stuff going on. It's not gonna happen. It's really a binary decision here on this project or not.
Through,
CAO.
through the chair, how specific do we have to be on our grant application description? Can we put in that we have an I&I project in Minden Hills and give a high-level description of what you anticipate doing? I think what I'm hearing from council members is that not concerned about the scope of work necessarily, it's the location. So can we put in a grant application that describes the scope of the project as opposed to the location? And then we can have further discussion with council, looking at the various locations that Aqua has looked at. So that might be a possibility.
Through the chair, I don't have details yet.
Through the chair, so you could have a generic title or description in the grant application. But the report before you was based on detailed analysis by Aqua for costing purposes. So if we do change the location, so I'm just letting council know, if we do change the location, those numbers would change. And I don't know what those numbers would be at this point in time. And that would be another delay, let's say, in getting that information for council. So there's a lot of work that has to go into the grant application, in the descriptive part of it. So if we don't have a specific location to do that background work to get it to the 26th to push the button, it would be very difficult.
Yes. Staff, what do you want to do?
I would like to let Councilor McKelvey speak, please.
Councilor McKelvey.
Why can't we just say we received the report, we direct staff to submit health and safety, blah, 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 funding application without Parkside Street? And, you know, we are, I don't want to turn down a funding opportunity, but we have to look at I realize you can't put the amounts in because you might deal with another road and it's going to be 1.5 million, or you might deal with another road and it's 1.2 million. So we should be able to just direct staff to put in an application for this work and in generalities.
Sorry, through the chair, that's exactly how I've sort of started to amend the resolution, as long as council understands, as the director of finance has acknowledged, that the numbers will not be the same. We'll have to bring those back and update council once we submit application.
MCAL.
So if I'm summarizing, I think council's comfortable with the scope of work, the type of project we're talking about, in and around the dollars that we're talking about. So if, as the clerk has indicated, if council can give us direction to proceed with the grant application in a generic sense, with the finances being in that neighborhood, then we would bring a report back that details out locations. Right.
Go ahead.
Fair?
I can take direction and do what we can.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the amendment, Counselor Johansson and Counselor Ingram would be, the first line would be the same. The second line would just read that council directs staff to submit the health and safety water stream funding application for the removal and replacement of water, wastewater, and storm infrastructure and sidewalks. Okay. Okay. Moved by Counselor Johansson, seconded by Counselor Ingram. The council receives report 2510 Public Works, Aqua, Health and Safety, Water, Stream Funding Application as information. And that council directs staff to submit the health and safety water stream funding application for the removal and replacement of water, wastewater, and storm infrastructure and sidewalks.
All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you, Mr. Timmons. Ms. McGuigan. Talk to me about culture.
Good afternoon, Mayor and councilors. So report before you is the Cultural Center Advisory Committee minutes from the February meeting. The information from there, as council can recall, in March when the January advisory committee meetings came, there was a recommendation on, then the withdrawal and the discussion of the process for withdrawing a recommendation. The revisions were made and coordinated through the clerk's department, and the committee has reviewed and approved.
Any questions? Seeing none, please read the resolution.
Moved by Counselor McKelvey, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shell, that council receive report 2512 Community Services Department, Minden Hills Cultural Center Advisory Committee minutes dated February 11th, 2025 as information.
All those in favor? It's carried. Now tell me about TVs that are gonna make me smarter. Is that what that is?
Well, they're going to bring you a lot of culture through there. So the report that you have before you is to purchase smart televisions with a donation from the Minden Hills Cultural Center Foundation. This would be a replacement of the 6 TVs that we currently have. They are outdated, so the ability to play the different slides for the cultural center is not compatible. So it's replacing in the Sterling Bank, the main building, and 4 in Nature's Place. And we'd be working with IT for the purchase of the installation of this equipment.
Any questions? Councilor McKelvey?
Not so much on the purchase. I'm just, I think it's great. And thank you very much to the foundation for doing this, but you've attached the policy and I'm trying to figure out why. The donate, are they wanting a tax receipt? They're a nonprofit.
So it was through the discussion with the treasurer to attach the policy and bring this before council for approval of taking the donation.
Was for the disposal, I assume. Yeah.
Um,
CFO?
Through the chair, it was more to show council that we're receiving a tangible asset. So it's an actual piece of equipment. So it was just to cover that off, to show council that, you're accepting the piece of that equipment, because if it's not the TVs, if it's another piece of equipment, then it could have implications for operating costs going forward. So council's acknowledging a piece of equipment.
Councilor McKelvey?
Or the policy that's attached is for issuance of income tax receipts. So I'm trying to figure out what that has to do with this. So I could see where you want us to know we're going to get new assets, which is great. We've done that in the report from Candace. I don't understand why policy 35, which is for issuing income tax receipts, is being part of this agenda item. Because the foundation wouldn't pay income tax.
So through the chair, so it just talks about the donations of tangible items. So that's why I thought it was pertinent to show that policy.
Okay, well, the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that we're going to be accepting these and we know that we may have to have some operational costs in the future and that we are deeming the other ones as surplus and getting rid of them. So. Yep. Go ahead.
Moved by Counselor Anderson, seconded by Counselor Ingram, that report 2513, Community Services Department, purchase of smart televisions with donation from the Minden Hills Cultural Center Foundation be received as information, and that council approves the purchase of 6 smart TVs by the manager of cultural services with full reimbursement from the Minden Hills Cultural Center Foundation, and further that council deems the 6 old TVs as surplus and direct staff to dispose for sale, and any funds received shall be placed in the cultural center reserve.
All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Chief Kruger. Thought you'd have a paintbrush with you.
Good afternoon, members of council. So this report is just outlined based on the discussion we had during budget deliberations about the painting of the fire hydrants. As I noted during those initial discussions and in the report, fire hydrants are supposed to be yellow, but the township can designate them to be a different color. And so this is just to do that, to make sure we're covering all of our legal bases under the fire code.
So we have to have, we're declaring that we're going to go with red, but then a portion of it will be a different color based on its pressure test or something like that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. So later on this summer, Aqua will be doing our flow testing. And once they set the rates or get the rates, then all of the hydrants will then, the caps and the bonnets of the hydrants will be painted a specific color based on their flow rate. Cap and the caps and the bonnet, which is the very top of the hydrant.
Okay. Councilor McKelvey?
What are we gonna do with the ones that are yellow?
So mine, through the chair, my understanding is there's only a couple or maybe 3 or 4
Yeah,
that are
it's not a
yellow.
lot, but
They will have to be painted red. So that way, all of our hydrants, the barrel of the hydrant will be red. The caps and the bonnets will be based on, painted whatever color based on the flow testing results.
so are we making arrangements to get them painted?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, through the chair, yes, that will be done by Aqua. And that will be done. No, they'll do the testing. We will have to paint them ourselves, and that will be something that I'll work out with Director Timmons, and hopefully I'll be able to get some volunteers from the firefighters to do the painting, the actual painting.
So I assume you only do the painting after you've done the flow testing to make sure that they're in good order.
That is correct, yes. Once the flow testing is done, we'll know what the pressures are, and then that will tell us what colors the caps and the bonnets need to be painted.
Councilor Ingram?
For some reason, I recall Aqua is going to do some hydrant painting this year too in their plans. I'm not sure if that can coordinate in, but they had an idea where they go and sandblast the entire thing. And the unit that goes over it, sandblast the whole thing and then they paint it. Something to look at. Maybe it's cheaper to go that way and get them all done quick. I don't know. It's a hell of a job to strip them though.
Through the chair, any assistance with painting the fire hydrants, I will more than welcome. But yeah, no, we'll have to do the flow testing first though.
Okay, any other questions? These are your. Councilor McKelvey?
We don't have to do the flow testing to paint the yellow hydrants, do we?
No,
Okay,
no,
that's
but
where we're getting confused here. We're gonna pass a bylaw that says our color is red, okay? Nothing to do with the little bonnet on top, the little hat doesn't, I'm not talking that.
no, that through the chair,
It's
that
the
was part of
hydrant
the
base.
information piece.
So if we're gonna pass a bylaw that says we're red, we need to make sure they're all red as soon as possible. Not when testing's done or not when this department has time.
Through the chair, I think I can hold off on enforcement of that for a short period of time.
I'm not concerned about your enforcement.
I just assumed that you would test it to make sure that it is in working order and didn't need to be replaced before you would repaint it. Either, I'll leave that up to the fire chief, not
Aqua does that twice a year, flushing and,
Okay, so
and
they're-
and testing, so.
Yeah.
They'll know. It's not his job to worry if
Yeah.
it's working.
Yeah, okay. Right,
That
great
is correct.
resolution, yeah.
Moved by Counselor McKelvey, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shell, that council receives report 2505 fire hydrant marking as information, and that bylaw 2565 fire hydrant marking be referred to the bylaw section of the agenda for approval.
All those in favor? That is carried. Sure.
Is the fire risk. I believe
Concerning what?
the fire risk.
No,
It's at-
Certainly, ask your question.
It's at moderate.
I have not been on the the M&R website yet today, and I get the emails at 1400 hours, so in about 15 minutes, I will get today's rating.
Okay, well, right now it's showing we're moderate, but 15 minutes can make a difference.
Yeah.
Can we please ensure that our website is accurate?
Through the chair to Council McKelvey. So we actually, the fire department is due to do our website update, I believe, next week. And we will be updating the rating sign that we use and changing it from, I'm moving away from the danger rating. And we're just gonna have, whether it's daytime burning is allowed, no daytime burning, and if we're actually in a fire ban, to get away from the whole rating thing, because people can go on the MNRF website and it gives them updates daily. And that will reduce staff time that takes to go around and update or change the signs on a,
I was
Daily
more
basis.
concerned about the website, but as far as signs, your little thingy's broken down at the boundary.
yes, so I
it
have a
doesn't
new
have to be-
sign. And I will be replacing that, hopefully tomorrow, actually, once I have a new deputy chief that can help me actually physically do that.
perhaps we can just put a link on our website to the MNRF.
And through you, Mr. Chair, yes, once we update the fire department section of the township website, that is what I will be doing to eliminate that issue.
Okay, thank you. Planning and development. Authority, we start with 2540.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so 2540 is for the zoning bylaw amendment that we had public meeting for, so I have nothing further to add.
This hearing, so questions, comments? Are we looking for?
Yes, if council has questions or comments, otherwise I'm good.
Okay, go ahead.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Shell, seconded by Counselor McKelvey, that council receive report 2540 planning as information, and further that bylaw 2563 being a bylaw to approve the zoning bylaw amendment for land subject of PLZBA 2025031 be referred to the bylaw section of the agenda.
All those in favor? That is carried. 2541.
For you, Mr. Mayor, report 2541 is for a severance agreement for application PLSEBA 2025-023. This is associated with consent applications H-05224 and H-05324. This agreement will require additional precautions, or by signing this agreement, they'll be required to go through additional precautions during the development of the property if and when that happens, to implement the mitigation measures recommended by the environmental impact study.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, please read the.
Moved by Counselor Sisson, seconded by Counselor McKelvey, that council receive report 2541 planning as information, and further that bylaw 2562 being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into a severance agreement with Kenneth and Jacqueline Berry for application PLSEBA 2025023 be referred to the bylaw section of the agenda.
All those in favor? That is carried. Now we have consent agenda for 53 to 55. Were there any questions on these?
Moved by Deputy Mayor Shell, seconded by Counselor Sisson, that council receive the following sale of shore allowance applications and planning reports as information. 2542 PL SRA 2025039, 2543 PL SRA 2025033, 2544 PL SRA 2023043, and further that council direct the planning department proceed with the said application in accordance with policy 19 as amended. And further that council refers bylaw 2564 to the bylaw section of the agenda to stop up, close, and convey part of the original shore allowance with respect to the said application.
All those in favor? That is carried. Report 2545.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so report 2545 is is in reference to, sorry, a pre-consultation for consent. This had been deferred at a previous meeting. So council had requested some more information prior to making a decision. Staff have attempted to provide somewhat of a figure that shows the existing fence lines, as well as what's currently used for pasture on the rural residential lands. So the owners really are wanting to retain as much of the agricultural land as possible. The resulting rural residential lot would still exceed requirements, and there would be no impacts either to the wetland or impacts anticipated from the side yard reduction for the house. So staff remain in support of the application.
Are there any questions? Counselor McKelvey?
Just a question on the, I'm not so sure page 5 is showing the right measurements, but maybe it is. I mean, I'm not concerned about the application now, but severed lot frontage is 71 feet, 21 meters, which I think they need 30 to, they'll need more than that. I'm thinking it's wrong because we're not changing the requirements in the proposed.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd have to double check, but I know 23 meters, for example, is 75 feet, so.
But what's the frontage required for a lot in a rural residential? 6.
Oh, sorry. So, and I see where, so what this is referring to is how much of the rural residential lot, that frontage is 21.6 meters. That doesn't tell you how big the retained or the benefiting lands are. It's just how much of the actual severed part that will be for lot addition is
Okay.
has frontage on. So sorry, I apologize. That is,
I get it.
yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Please read the resolution.
Moved by Counselor Ingram, seconded by Counselor Johansson, that council receive report 2545 planning as information, and further that council recommends approval of the application for the lot addition for lands identified as 4951 Galert Road, Barry, to the County of Halliburton Land Division, subject to conditions outlined in the pre-consultation report.
All those in favor? That is carried. Ms. Fitton.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Council. We have a report. This is from the Minden Legion, and it's in regard to their Remembrance Day service and requesting a road closure. We have circulated it to the OPP, Fire, EMS, Roads, and to Community Services. Community Services has suggested moving the timing to a bit earlier. And the initial request from the Legion was a bit later, just to allow staff to place the bleachers and prevent parking along the road. They're also planning to have barricades and staff there to allow the buses access. That's it. And it's for November 11th.
Right. Same day every year, right? Just 2 points. One, just for the purpose of the report, they're no longer using EMS, they're using paramedics. And so that, and then the second thing is that since most of the activities take place by the village green, last year when we did have an incident, the ambulance was parked at the far side. And I would like that we block off an area next to the CIBC or just right around the corner. So the ambulance is at the side closest to where most of the activities take place. last year, the honor guard was all over 80, and this year I assume they'll be 1 year beyond over 80. And if anything was to happen, it took it didn't take long, but it took maybe 4 or 5 extra minutes for the ambulance to get around because of they were over by the bridge. Okay, and so I'd just like them to be parked on the other side, close to where we are. So if you can talk to people, make sure that's done.
Yeah, we could circulate that to,
And then we just block off an area where they can park, that they'd just be that much closer. Thank you. Read the,
Moved by Counselor Ingham, seconded by Counselor Hewson. The council received report 2522 administration, Royal Canadian Legion road closure for Remembrance Day services as information, and that council approves the placement of barricades on a portion of the Bob Cajun Road permitting traffic flow on the intersections of Water Street over Sunnybrook Bridge, Newcastle Street on Tuesday, November the 11th, 2025 from 7:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. for the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 636 Remembrance Day service, and further that prior to the event, the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 636 provide a certificate of insurance naming the corporation of the Township of Minden as additional insured in the amount of 5 million, and further that council directs delegated authority for the Royal Canadian Legion Remembrance Day services road closure requests to the clerk or deputy clerk for the remaining term of council.
all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. So we didn't organize this next item very well, did we?
It started. You, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor McKelvey?
Yes, I'm happy to. Do you want,
Well,
do you
we
want
have
to
to
just
do
take
the,
a 10-minute break? I'm happy to.
we'll take it. We'll take a break till 2:10. But we said we'd get back at 2:10. Oh, don't like to disappoint our TV audience. We're gonna do the bylaws section before we return back to 15.7.2. So please read the bylaws.
Moved by Counselor Sisson, seconded by Counselor McKelvey. Be it resolved that the following bylaws be received, read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed. Bylaw 2559 to appoint an acting deputy fire chief. Bylaw 2561 waste connection non-eligible blue box material 2025. Bylaw 2562 report 2541 planning PL SEVA 2025023. Bylaw 2563 report 2540 planning PL ZBA 2025031. Bylaw 2564 report 2544 planning PL SRA 2023043, and bylaw 2565 to regulate the fire hydrant marking.
All those in favor? That is carried. No, we can't because you have to confirm the proceedings. He will be later than Cynthia. I would rather that everybody be here. We have an Apple AirTag on. So. Okay. Just doing the Lachlan community. So I let you start once you get your stuff pulled up. Yeah, we're live.
Sorry, apologies, folks. I think the last or the next item on our agenda is a request from council to bring back some information on the Lachlan Community Center and potential paths forward. I think the other thing I just need to update council on is the advisory committee did meet on Tuesday of this week. So that I could give them a bit of an update, and we reviewed again the information that council had at budget time. They have decided that in their minutes, there will be a resolution and a recommendation to council. And it would be it resolved that the Lachlan Community Center Advisory Committee recommends investigating a new building not to exceed 1,800 square feet on the Lachlan property. So that's where they've landed, just for council's awareness. And I think, there is just a want for some direction from council as to what we should flesh out in more detail in preparation for budgets moving forward.
Deputy Mayor Shell.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and in speaking with some of the members of the committee, and I'm not on the committee, but I know several of the members, and they had said, something prefab around 1,600 square feet on slab with one gender neutral accessible washroom. I think it's time we either find out what it's going to cost or we don't. I've been here for years having this conversation, and since COVID, it's just gotten worse. So either, I can't say that, I almost said something about getting off the pot, but anyway. So- Oops.
It's a gender neutral pot.
Yeah, anyway, I would like to see council at least like put out some kind of a tender for this to get an idea of what it's going to cost, because we're just going around in circles here.
Sorry, Councillor Ingram. Councillor Ingram.
Thank you, Mayor Carter. I agree with Councillor Shell, Deputy Mayor Shell, sorry. She and I have a long experience involving these committees, and I can remember when we had to close the Gillard Hall. We started talking then about doing work at that hall, and we never happened. So that's going way back.
Okay. So is this a motion to, are we gonna wait for that committee to recommend it, or we just go ahead and do it, council?
No, I think we go ahead and do it, but in that case, do we start with the demolition of the existing hall at this point? It's gotta
Sure.
be sooner or later, so if we want to do a new build, it's gotta get out of the way.
I mean, through you, Mr. Mayor, I think, while we gave high-level costing details, it's probably worth a bit of a refinement of some of that information and bringing it back to council. But to your point, Councillor Sisson, if that is the direction council wants us to look at, we can flesh out a few steps. I mean, there's some contents in the building that we would want to look at. It might be demolition of the building, and then we're putting a plan together.
So
But council would need to review all of that.
So then you would tender for a new build and demolition at the same time then?
Well, I was thinking that, we put out 2 RFPs, but if somebody wanted to do both, they could give us a combined price. I think would be the best way of doing it, because there may be somebody who wants to do just one of them, right?
I move that we move forward with this and get things going.
Councillor McKelvey, is that a second or a question?
A statement. No, you threw me off. First of all, we have to have engineering involved in designing a building. And so I don't know what staff needs for details today to be able to start moving this forward.
Go ahead.
Can I just make a suggestion, just that we recommend to investigate a new build and then bring it back to council and proceed with the RFPs that were. Well, staff will.
Just like, who's that falling on then, just so that we're clear of that.
Would have to be the deputy
Well, it would-
building official, isn't it?
Well, it would be the CAO and the CBO that developed the.
Right. There.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I think that we would be looking at two requests for proposal, one for the demolition, one for the build, but they could be combined. If somebody wanted to combine. Go ahead.
Can I just ask a question? Are we letting an RFP for the build, or are we getting full cost design and full cost to then be able to set a budget number?
Councillor Ingram?
I think we have to be as close as we can to what we're actually looking at. So. Well, I mean, you have to go out and get the actual numbers of what it's gonna cost to do this job, like actually set a tender out. The requested interest.
So just to understand where you're coming from and also a little bit where Councillor McKelvey was going. I mean, this is a 1,600 square foot prefab probably building,
Actually,
which
yes.
seemed to be a pretty standard thing. I'm thinking something like the Lions Club
Right,
hall
right.
or something like that.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't see that we need to be going out and trying to come up with real specifics in engineering, you know.
If I may then?
Yeah.
Is there any way that we can just, I mean, I don't know if you can talk to the Lions Hall, you probably don't even need to, but just get a price then for something that's 1,600 square feet that looks like the Lions Center?
We can do that.
Because
a
it has
pad
the
under it.
bathroom, it's accessible, that has the kitchen, it has the nice open space, it's on slab.
Yeah.
Has a little bit of storage at the back. I mean, I think it would be perfect. So just go by
We-
that based on the size of 1,600 square feet.
Councilor McKelvey?
Committee definitely liked the idea of having something like the Lions Hall. But the Ontario Building Code has changed substantially since that was constructed. And you can't have one universal bathroom, I don't think, but these are all. Okay,
And I'm pretty sure most of the people who build these things would be pretty up to date as to what is required in these buildings.
I-
But
yeah, we're going.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Mayor, what I'm hearing is go and let a tender for a prefab commercial or public building that doesn't exceed 1,800 square feet and meets all of the building code requirements.
pretty much, yeah.
Just that I know the committee had said 1,600 square feet. I don't know if that makes a big difference in the price, but it might. So just to, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
you know, might make a big difference. And I know they did say 1,600. So
16 it is.
just to,
No,
no, they didn't.
the resolution was such that it was worded no more than 18. And
Okay, but
that
what,
was in their resolution we passed on to.
oh, okay.
Okay,
Correct?
Done.
Correct, though? Am I right?
You are correct.
okay, no more than 1,800, and then a separate RFP for the demolition.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
This should be Counselor McKelvey and Counselor Sisson. So I've amended the agenda to include the line that says that council directs staff to proceed with an RFP for the development of a prefab building not exceeding 1,800 square feet for the Lachlan property. Okay, so move,
And the one for the demolition.
oh, sorry.
Because you may need to demolish first to be able to get the equipment in to build the new one, right?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Moved by Counselor McKelvey, seconded by Counselor Sisson, that council receive report 2523, building and bylaw and administration, Lachlan Community Center update as information. And that council directs staff to proceed with an RFP for the development of a prefab building not exceeding 1,800 square feet for the Lachlan property. And further directs staff to proceed with the demolition of the Lachlan Community Center.
All those in favor? That is carried. Confirming bylaw.
Moved by Counselor Sisson, seconded by Counselor McKelvey, that bylaw 2566 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council held during its meeting of June 12th, 2025 be received, read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed.
All those in favor? That is carried. Adjournment.
Moved by Counselor Sisson, seconded by Deputy Marshall. Be it resolved that the June 12th, 2025 regular council meeting agenda is hereby adjourned at 2:25 p.m.
All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everybody. The next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June 26, 2025 at 9 a.m. at the regular location. Bye for now.